name is Jamal Omar, and I am the executive director of a nonprofit organization called this provides services for the refugees and the Somali community here in the state of Minnesota. Also, what I do is, since most of the Somalis are Muslim, I also am an advocate for Islam. I go around teaching non-Muslims about Islam, and I've partnered with an organization called Building Blocks of Islam. The Building Blocks of Islam is an organization that works on community and social services for both Muslims and non-Muslims alike. So for example, we have community outreach, which we call in the Arabic language dawah, where we call them out to tell them about what Islam is and what Islam isn't. And this is a time of our history that Islam is portrayed in a negative light always inside of the media, and so it's our job as Muslims to go ahead and tell what the true message of Islam is the best way that we can. And so we reach out to the Minnesota Council of Churches. We've reached out to many of the different faith organizations and many of the different nonprofit organizations. And we train meet your Somali neighbor, meet your Muslim neighbor. And so we have these presentations so non-Muslims can get exposed to Islam in a safe environment in a best way. Well, you know, I'm not new to St. Cloud and some of the anti-Islamic rhetoric and some of the anti-Somali rhetoric that's been here. When I first came here in 2007 to St. Cloud and made this my home, the first thing that the immigrants would say to me was that this is known as White Cloud instead of St. Cloud, which showed the underlying problem that was happening with the immigrant community here in St. Cloud. I had to hear stories from the community members about their mosque being burned down. I had to deal with them putting anti-Islamic pictures on bus stops that were basically pornography that depicted their religion in a very bad way. And this was a place where in front of school bus were children in that. And it wasn't just about attacking Islam, it was about attacking the whole entire community of residents here inside of St. Cloud. And there were many other different incidents that have happened over a period of time. And it's amazing that 4 years later, I'm coming back here to actually see this revolving door that is still there. So something isn't working properly. And it's something that the city can do a lot more to go ahead and cause some dialogue to happen. There's something underlying this that is causing this fear among some of the residents in St. Cloud and having them act upon it. And so I think the city can do a better job of actually supporting a dialogue to have conversations about who the Muslims are, who the Muslims aren't, and to deal with some of the negative propaganda that we see in some of the major news stations. So one of the issues that is there is that as a community, this is a group by the community. So laws are set up that the community has to agree upon certain things that happen, whether it be a business or whether it be a religious organization, things like that. I'm dealing with a mosque in Brooklyn Park. There's a moratorium that they can't build any religious centers. Okay, so they've been waiting for 2 years to build this mosque, and the moratorium is going to come up so they can go ahead and re-petition the city to go ahead and build a mosque. Now, some of this is because some of the residents have protested about building a mosque. Now, I've just had to deal with a 3-day conference of of a Christian church that actually brought anti-Islamic speakers here into Minnesota. And so if you look at some of the rhetoric, some of the publications that have been published by some of their speakers, you will see that there's actually a systematic way that they're trying to get people to stop building mosques here in the United States. So one of the books that one of the speakers had wrote was called Unmosqued. And basically this is saying that all mosques in the United States, all mosques period, are utilized for doing jihad. And so they're not just a worship center, but they're a political command structure to go ahead and take over everybody. And so this is the fear-mongering that is put inside of the publications. Now, we're starting to see this a lot more inside of Christian groups. So at first we started to see it just with like the Baptist movement, the evangelical Baptists, okay? But now we're starting to see it into some of the Catholic groups. We're starting to see it in some of the Lutheran groups. And this ideology is actually creeping in there. And this is an extremist ideology. It's looking to go ahead and to pull apart the Muslim community and actually discriminate against them, and it causes this fear. And we've seen this rhetoric before. If you look at, for example, when the Western Europeans came to America, they used this fear tactic to go ahead and say that the native indigenous people of this land were savages and that they're going to rape you, they're going to steal your children, they're going to do all sorts of crazy stuff to you, you need to kill them. And this happened. And then it went on farther, you know, and when the slaves were here, they did some horrible things to the slave, they did the lynch laws. All of this stuff was based upon an environment of fear. And human beings, naturally, they do crazy things when they are afraid. It's fight or flight syndrome, right? And so we need to make sure that we are able to go ahead and get rid of this fear, this situation of fear, and go ahead and have a dialogue between and work on some of our differences, whether we be Muslim, whether we be Christian, whether we be Jewish, or whether we be of no faith. It is something that we are all human beings at the end of the day. We need to come together and talk about. Very good. So St. Cloud State University is probably a big blessing for the community of St. Cloud. Here is a university that actually supports diversity of all different groups of people. In fact, it's one of the schools in the MinSCU system that has probably one of the most diverse populations. You have people from Saudi Arabia, you have people from India, you have people from Pakistan, you have people from Somalia, China, all of the countries. In fact, I think there's 85 countries that are represented inside of St. Cloud. So this is not just an indigenous white city. This is a very diverse city. And the community, if they have some fears about some of these issues, it is up to the community members to go ahead and expose their culture, their way of life, and their religions to them in a safe manner. So this is where St. Cloud State and also the city of St. Cloud can actually come together and work together on a partnership to go ahead and say, rent out the convention center and have a free event that all of the community members of St. Cloud, they can come for free food, and they can sponsor an event like this so they can get to know their Somali neighbors, they can get to know their Chinese neighbors, their Afghan neighbors, and this is something I think St. Cloud State would be willing to do, and I think it is something that would be beneficial for the whole entire community. So my suggestion to the Somali community and the immigrant community here in St. Cloud is to get out and don't just stay in your little group and among your ethnic people. Get out there and get to know Americans. Introduce yourself and be patient with some of their prejudice and some of their ignorance towards your culture and your ways of life. It is for us to go ahead and do the best that we can to go ahead and teach them about who we are. Show how our differences and our similarities are something to be celebrated, not something to be afraid of. Okay, and that's the biggest thing I can tell my Muslim brothers and sisters, the Somalis, and even the non-Somali immigrants here in St. Cloud.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.